on Rusty Tuned. Just kidding, guys. Welcome back. So I did a little bit of stuff off camera over the weekend here. It's not really stuff that you guys probably want to watch. If you've ever dealt with an LS engine, you don't need to watch me put accessories and the intake back on. So I did get all the accessories back on. So we got our power steering, bracket, alternator, belt, everything all on there. And something cool I did find out though is that, I'll get a light here, the stock power steering hose from these trucks actually did, if you can look down here, it did bolt right in. It's this hose right here. And then the factory one's a return, so it just needs a hose clamped on. And I'm just gonna go from right there, this guy, and then over to this guy, so I'll have to move this a bit and then it will go on. So that's gonna work out no problem. I hooked up the brake booster with the stock hose. I think I'm gonna have to shorten it, cut a chunk out of it because it's kind of a bit long right there. I also got the power and ground wires hooked up. I use this factory wires, even though the battery is on the opposite side in this truck, I got it to work. So the power wire here runs right down to the transmission. I did cut the little junction box off that has the alternator plug going into it, because on this side obviously it doesn't work with the alternator being way over here. So I'm gonna have to run a wire from here over to there, but that's not a big deal because the stock wiring harness in these trucks actually goes all down to the starter. So I'll be able to take the alternator charge wire that was originally on the truck and just attach it to the alternator, which in turn connects down to the starter, which obviously connects to the positive on the battery here. And then I did hook up the heater hoses, and on these trucks, one heater hose actually went to this spigot on the stock rad here. So I'll have to plug that off, or I'm thinking about using it for my steam vent because I don't have a way to hook up the steam vent on these, so I'll have to do that. So I took both hoses, I cut them a little bit shorter, hooked both heater hoses up to the water pump, and then I took the lower rad hose here as well and I chopped it and it went on. And then I have a factory truck rad hose, and it also goes on. I'm not gonna stick it on because it's in my way, but it basically goes on like that. I might want to put it on the right way, would be great. But so that goes on there, and then it bolts up right like that, so then I can reuse this factory hose that's from the 99 to 07 Silverado Sierra trucks. So that works. And I did get the wiring harness also all ran, put back on the motor. Nothing fancy to see there. I just basically put it on just like factory does. The O2s are going down. The little bit harness that goes usually over there to the AC stuff, it's also going over there right now. And then my little dealio that I built here, this little fuse panel relay Amazon deal. So what I got here is I got a trigger wire, which is this thinner 18 gauge wire, and then I have this 10 gauge or 12 gauge wire for the main power in, and then this is the power to the fuel pump, because this one relay is to power all the coils and all the basically engine stuff, and then this fuse or this relay here is for my fuel pump. So what I'm working on now is actually trying to find a place to mount the fuel pump. So I'm thinking I'm just gonna mount it down on the frame, possibly just right down there in front of the engine here. I might just mount it right on this bar here is what I'm thinking, and then run some hoses there. But I do got to get some hose, so probably gonna mount that up and then I'm gonna run out and grab some hose. Well, we're in the truck now here, and I'm just hooking up the OBD2 port. So what you got here is a constant hot wire, because OBD2 port always has power. So you got that one here, and then you got a ground, and that's just basically one that was coming out of the harness, and I reused it, so it's hooked to the block. And there's two ground wires on this OBD2 port, so it's hooked to that. And then our green one is our serial 2 data for OBD2 port, and it's just hooked to the green wire here. And this purple wire, it's used for like a body control module deal. You don't need that in here because we don't have any body control module stuff that needs to be looked at by the OBD2, so we can just leave that out. And then I have my ground out from the computer for the check engine light, and then I have a 12 volt key on power, so this comes on when I turn the key on, and that'll be my check engine light. And I got this little light here from Princess Auto. They had a bunch of them there, so that'll be my little dash and check engine light. And yeah, they were 61 cents, so I bought 4 of them. So I'll get this mounted up in here, and then what I want to try to do is power up the computer and hook onto it with my OBD2 and just see that everything is working right and that I am 100% on all this. So I will slap the stuff in here. I'm just gonna leave it loose for now, and then I will hook up the computer. All right guys, so I made a little mistake. I hooked the green wire by force of habit to the green wire thinking, oh yeah, OBD2, it's green into the computer, so it'd be green going into the serial port. No, it's not actually going into this OBD2 port. It's actually the purple wire is what you want. So your serial data port goes to your purple wire because that's pin 2, which you should always pay attention to the pinouts, which I was being an idiot and just hooked green to green. So now we're gonna try this again. All right, so we're just gonna ghetto hook this up. You hear the relay go, you hear it click off. That'd be the fuel pump relay because it just made it do a prime, so it's acting like it's priming the truck. And then we have our OBD2 port here plugged in. Our check engine light is obviously on. When the key and it's not running, the engine light's on. And it'll probably be on as soon as we try to connect to it. So let's try to connect to it. There we go. It is detecting all the supported parameters the computer can display. There we go, we're connected, and now we just need to hit the record button. And there we go. Manifold absolute pressure sensors reading 4.3 volts. Cylinder air mass, that's gonna reading will be kind of funny, it's not really on there. Trans, obviously that's not on, there's a bunch of stuff that's not actually on here. But that shows us that we are connected here. So that's always a good thing, guys. So I just got back from the parts store there. I picked up some fuel line and I decided to change the fittings out on this fuel pump here. So what they have is they have this really screwy system with like a straight cut 1/8 NPT. Well, I guess it'd be just straight cut thread, and it has this copper washer on it, and it's kind of just rinky dinky. That makes no sense. That's never gonna seal. So I got these 1/8 NPT by 3/8 barb, and I'm gonna thread those in the pump here. They go in perfect and they'll tighten right up, and they're tapered thread, so we won't have any issues with leaking or any of that crap. So I'll put one of those in each end, and then I'll show you what I'm gonna do next. All right, so I don't know if you guys can see this here, but I have this fitting monstrosity here, and it doesn't let me put a fitting on for the fuel feed. It actually is hitting the firewall right back here. So I'm going to go to Brian's house, and he has one of these that's actually in a -6, because what I had to do is adapt this from -8 to -6, and that's why this big honking thing is in here. So I'm going to go over to Brian's house and we'll see what he's doing anyways. He's working on his truck, so yeah, that's now we're recording. You guys just look at it. Where'd your box go, Brian?
I'm dying.
Is that why your radiator's in backwards in case you go reverse? This door handle still work?
Yep.
Oh yeah. Look at this, boys. Fancy. Was this a race truck or something? Race truck, Brian?
I don't know.
What are these Osiris pumps here? Our Trey likes those. We're just stealing the fitting off his content sensor because Brian uses his content sensor for things, right? You use it all the time?
Yeah.
Just in case you do some street pump gas driving or what? What's this? This is 427 in here? Oh, 4.8. Well guys, it's the next day here. I got that piece from Brian and I did install it on the truck here. You guys can see it's sitting right there. And I got the feed and return lines coming off it. And I did tie into this hard line right here, thinking that it was the factory return. But what I actually found out was it's the factory vent line, and it goes to both tanks, and it's not metered left or right. So when I hooked onto it and powered up the pump, it overpressured that line and basically blew it off at the back. So I thought it was the return line, but it's actually, I believe, a vent line, and the return line is the small, tiny little line, and that's not gonna be big enough for return. So what I'm gonna do is I'm actually gonna pipe the return into the vent hose for the right side fuel tank, because the left side fuel tank on this truck doesn't work. So I'm gonna cut that and I'm gonna splice in to this line up here. The hard line goes back, and I'll have to add a little piece of hose to the vent line for the right side tank. So I will show you what I'm talking about when I get under there. All right guys, so we're under the truck here. This is the right and left like tank selector. It's electronic solenoid basically, and it just switches from left to right when you want to do that. And I didn't realize that this would be the feed line, which I'm hooked up to for my fuel pump, and this little tiny line is actually the return line, and it has a selector to go left and right bank, where I hooked into this wire, or this hose, because it was the bigger line up front. But it actually comes up here, it bypasses this selector, and it just goes basically up into the frame here, and then it just tees like up inside the frame here and goes to both tanks. So then when I first pressurized this, it started leaking out the driver's side tank, and I was like, what the hell? So I plugged this driver's side tank, because we're not using the driver's side tank, it has a hole in it. So I plugged off that, but then when I pressurized just the passenger side tank, it actually blew the line back here, and I almost hit 100 PSI. So there must be a check valve on this vent line, and it's not allowing any gas to go back. If it does, it's very little. So what I'm actually going to do is I'm going to take this line right off right here, take this whole T contraption off, and I'm going to run that back and over here, and I'm going to tee it in to the vent line here for the gas tank, so then I can just run it in there and it'll go into the gas tank with no problem. So I got the return line hooked up to the gas tank there properly. Of course the heater's going to turn on as soon as I start talking, but so I got that hooked up. I'm just on the HP tuners right now, and I'm changing the tune so it's a non-electric transmission. And then I also went into system here and I turned the VATS control, which is security, to none, so it will actually start and run. And then I already licensed the computer, so we're just gonna flash this on here, and then we should be able to give her a go. So I got it jimmy rigged here just to see if everything works. I want to make sure that it's all running before, or it's all wired right before I put everything where it's supposed to be. So I'm going to try firing it. I'm trying to figure out how to do the gas pedal mount, and I got this weird gas pedal on this thing. It comes out at a weird angle. It kind of shoots around the brake pedal, and it's made to be mounted right next to the brake. But in these trucks, you guys look here, see where that triple screw mount is there. That's where it originally was mounted, then it actually S-ed over the opposite way. So if I was to put this pedal in here, like this, my gas pedal is pretty much in the trans tunnel. So what I did was I made this little offset mount. So basically it's just got the 3-bolt pattern there, and then this is bolted to that. I'm just going to offset it a bit, and then I should be able to just bolt this in there like that, and that should give us a pedal. So let me just bolt this in quick here. Guys, so that's gonna be her. Kind of look from back here now, kind of looks almost like factory. It's kind of just right in the nice spot, and yeah, so there's that mount right there. It's kind of nice because there's actually room behind this part, so the nuts don't touch the back. And then yeah, it's pretty sturdy, like it's not going anywhere. I just gotta make sure that's doing 100% throttle. If not, I will just put some shims behind here to give me more room before I hit the floor. But it's looking like that's gonna work pretty good. So that was actually pretty easy. Now I just gotta do feed the line through the dash there, and then we should have throttle pedal. Fuck yeah, boys! Sounds kind of good, boys. I like that.